process. I'm your host, Ralph. Let's dive right in. First of all, how did we do in DFS last week? Well, we didn't come up with the win in the cash game because CD Lamb went down in the first quarter. That ankle gave out on us. And so we missed the money by about 12 points, 15 points, something like that. But it's the difference of what we expect and what was sure to be a nice performance by him. So not going to cry over spilled milk or lost money. We will take our lumps and move on. It's week 4. We're going to get that back, and we're going to hop right back on the horse. That's what we do here at the process. Also, last week results in terms of what did we see season long? How did that work out for me? We turned the corner, guys. Starting to see those points cranked in. Very excited about the fact that we did not get worked up. We didn't make any moves too soon. We just kind of stood pat last week, and now the points are starting to trickle in. And so just more testament to why it is a process and why from week to week we do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We got a lot of good things going for ourselves. So with that in mind, let's hop right in. Let's not delay on the news that we got to get out, the information that we got to share for this week. And let's start with a little would you rather. If you don't know, would you rather? We're going to take some choices, compare them, go over them, and see who I like better. Each week, I'm going to try to do a different category or position, right? We started with defense. I think we did quarterback. We moved around a bit, but this week, we're going to do tight end. I realize people stream a lot of tight ends, and in fantasy, you're always looking for an edge, for a guy that can produce, or a guy that's on the cheap that may be standing around for a touchdown. So I think it's worth it for us to take a look at what we want to invest in this week at tight end. So first up, Travis Kelce or Dalton Kincaid, both in decent matchups. I'm going to take Kelce over Kincaid this week because the matchup is tougher. I expect Kansas City to have to do more to win that game, stay in that game, so the need for Kelce is greater. Kincaid has been arguably better than Kelce this year, but Buffalo has a very soft matchup against the Saints. I don't know how much work he's going to get in or how long the starters are actually going to have to get to be out there. So I'm going to take Kelce. Next one, Hunter Henry or Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, great tight end, better of the two. I'm going to take him over Hunter. I'm going to take Hunter Henry over him this week. Andrews versus Kansas City. That's not the path to victory. There are other plays which we'll get into later. But for me, for my money's worth, in this matchup, I'm taking Hunter Henry this week. He came on strong last week. We're not riding the bandwagon with everybody. It's just that New England is playing Carolina this weekend. This is the way to attack them. This is the pathway to attack them. So I see Bryce Young, I see Drake May, who's been playing pretty good, be able to hit this tight end. He'll be able to get his guy, so I would take Hunter Henry over Mark Andrews this week. All right, Jake Ferguson over Tyler Warren this week. And I actually like Warren in this game versus the Rams. I think Indianapolis is going to have to do something to keep up with the Rams. We know the Rams can score points, and so Indianapolis is going to have to find a way. In the path of using the tight end versus that Los Angeles Rams defense, it's not the worst in the world. They could actually get away with that. Alec Pierce is out this week at wide receiver, so that condenses the options. It's not like, we normally throw to wide receiver 2 X amount of times. Now Pierce isn't in, and whoever's out there will throw to him X amount of times. It's not like that. You use the weapons you're most sure about. They're most sure about Pittman. Now with no Pierce, the next guy's going to be Warren. So him versus Jake Ferguson, I'm taking Warren this week because Ferguson and Dallas is in a game that I don't think they'll be able to win. They're facing a tough Green Bay defense, and I expect them to have their hands. Next up, Brenton Strange from Jacksonville or Harold Fanning from Cleveland. I've been playing Njoku, but Fanning has been arguably a little bit better. Mirrored production, 4 to 6 catches for each of those guys each week. That's where they've been falling. Strange has not been that consistent. I like Jacksonville this week, but not that route. I don't think he offers a ton of production. I would take Fanning, even though I like Njoku. All right, moving on to Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert. And this week, I think I would like to take Dallas Goedert. Again, this matchup with Tampa Bay, I think they're going to have to try to score some points here. We know Tampa can score. We've seen them run it up in the past couple of weeks and really score points at the end of the game. Dallas Goedert would have to be involved. versus Zach Ertz and the Washington team that I'm not sure what I expect from them this week. I'm not sure what kind of production we get. Their choices are truncated. They do not have Jaden Daniels this week. They also do not have Terry McLaurin this week. And so the need for Ertz is going to be more. But I also think that means that their opponent is going to be able to single in on him a little bit clearer. And at this point in his career, he's not truly dynamic enough to beat assignments that have been geared specifically for him. Moving on. Hunter Henry or Sam Laporta this week. Sam Laporta, Lions going up against the Browns. I mean, I expect them to play better defense, so I like Hunter Henry this week. I don't think the Browns are going to win this game. The Lions are going to win, but the Browns will make them go through the exercises. Covering the tight end, they're not abysmal at, and so I do think Laporta will have a tougher matchup. He's also lower on the totem pole. He is much lower on the totem pole than Hunter Henry is with this offense. They may be looking for him this week versus Laporta, who's stuck behind, Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown. There's a lot of people that would get fed before him, so give me him. All right, moving right along, Zach Ertz or Mark Andrews this week. Between these two, I'm going to take Andrews. Again, tougher matchup versus Kansas City. I'm going to make it a matchup-based choice right there. Ertz, not sure, like I said, if he can beat design play against him at this point in his career. So I'm going to take Andrews. All right, moving on to Sam Laporta or Dalton Kincaid. And this week, I guess between the two of those, I would take Kincaid. Not high on particularly each of them, but if given the option between the two of them, I'm rolling with Kincaid. It's a soft matchup. Maybe he can be standing around in the end zone and catch a touchdown, but I don't think he gets 100 yards rushing or receiving or anything like that this week. And either of those guys for that matter, but just Kincaid offers a bit more. Dallas Goedert or Kyle Pitts, everybody over Kyle Pitts. Show it to me, bro. Show it to me. I don't care about the matchup. This dude gets lost in the field alone with nobody else there. So I'm going to stay hands off and go with Goddard. TJ Hawkinson for Minnesota or Juwan Johnson. New Orleans is not in a great spot this week. They're playing the Bills. I don't like anything about what they offer in that matchup. And so I'm going to take Hawkinson as a default. The Vikings are going up against the Steelers. They're on the road, but still significantly better matchup than Juwan Johnson will see versus Buffalo. Mark Andrews or Harold Fanning Jr. this week. I'm going to take Andrews because Fanning doesn't get all the production. I think he's in a good spot this week, but he literally shares production. Like if him and Njoku were one guy, that would probably be like close to tight end one and not. But that's not the case, right? And so, if you're asking me, do I want half of the tight end production from Cleveland or all the tight end production from Baltimore? Because I think likely's out anyway. So let me get Baltimore. Let me get Mark Andrews. In our final conundrum, would you rather this week, Zach Ertz or Kyle Pitts? And we said it, anybody over Pitts. So congratulations, Zach Ertz. You get a would you rather win to round out that segment. Guys, before we hop into our next segment, let's take a break and talk about productivity-based pricing. Let's say you have an AI-based company, an AI-based startup, a SaaS company, and you need an engineer. You need a growth marketer. You're trying to get more leads, bring in more cash, close more deals. Maybe you need to build out a new feature set to your application. You want to add a dashboard to review what's going on the application. These are all things that Fraction can help with, and you can go visit fraction.org to learn more about it. Of course, you can buy somebody's time. You need an AI engineer, we will sell you his time. However, now introducing productivity pricing. You can talk to somebody at Fraction about a deal where you will only pay for productivity. We will outline the work to be done in the form of story points and base you into a monthly program where you pay a certain rate based on the amount of story points that you need done, and you only pay for work completed. That's right. If the engineer only does half of the work, you only pay half of the bill. Visit Fraction.org to learn more about productivity-based pricing and how we may be able to help out your team build today. Now, moving right along, let's hit the reload for this week. We're going to make it short and sweet, guys. I'm really trying to refine this section for us. And so here we go. Bears at Raiders. The Raiders' O-line is a turnstile. It kills Jonty and the run, basically. Roll with Caleb and DJ Moore. I like them. I'll sprinkle in some of Dunze, no problem. I'm fading Swift and DFS, playing the seasonal. The Bears' defense looks live this week. The Raiders are suspect, and so I think I'll take them. Chicago steals it on the road. Reload. Vikings at Steelers. Ugly total fits here. This is a defensive game. Justin Jefferson can still eat. Otherwise, pass on Pittsburgh weapons. Vikings defense forces a mistake here, I think, down the stretch. I'm going to take Minnesota by a score. Reload. Chargers at the Saints. Dart over Russ helps vibes, but not production, guys. Still no giant pieces for DFS. Seasonal neighbors only. Chargers D is in a smash spot. Hampton steps into volume, I believe, this week with Najee being done. Sorry to hear, brother. Sucks for you, but we got to march on. Keenan Allen over Ladd. That seems to be the working conundrum that we have here. So we'll stick with it. Keenan over Ladd. Bolts cruise this week. Reload. Titans at Texans. Houston wins the rock fight, but just barely. Stroud is just really capped by the O-line and what his coaches are asking of him, which is to hit the check down to the guy in front of you. Don't think about the home run all the time, which is really what he wants. He wants to hit Nico Collins with the home run. We saw him do that last week. That's the thing that's flustering him, along with that O-line. Nico is safe. The rest of the offense is kind of, I don't really want that, especially not the run game. Deep seasonal dart on the Tennessee rookie wide receiver, Ayo Manor. The Texans defense versus the rookie QB is the edge in this game, and that's why Houston's different. Reload. Commanders at Falcons. Mariota revenge tour minus McLaurin means pretty much Debo heavy scheming, but backfield's a stay away for Washington. I don't want any parts of that. Atlanta simplifies. Keep things simple for Penix. Bijan is the program. Play action is the program. London and seasonal, play it, that's fine. Falcons D versus this backup wide receiver quarterback combo. We want to take that. Atlanta holds home field. Reload. Saints at the Bills. The Bills D can score here. Saints offense is toothless. I'm starting Allen, duh. But spread targets keep the Bills wide receivers volatile. Everybody eats. We don't really know what we're getting there, so I'm going to stay away. Buffalo stays perfect at home. Defense leads the way. Reload. Panthers at Patriots. Carolina's bumps and bruises keep the ceiling low here. McMillan and Hubbard, playable and active. Rico Dowdle for deep DFS punts. He might just actually hit the goal line. But Drake May is better than Bryce Young right now. Diggs and Henry, headline Pat Stacks. I'm probably staying away from Diggs myself. New England grinds out a home win. Reload. Eagles at Buccaneers. Trap spot vibes again this week for the Eagles. Baker's late game magic. Bucks squeak by is what I'm thinking. Attack Philly through the air. That's the way to beat them, or to try to beat them. So I like Godwin. He's my preferred route over Abuka this week. He's back from injury. He steps in and is productive, in my opinion. Hurts, I like that coming back with the AJ, Devontae, sort of a stack there. That's still a smash and seasonal lock all those guys in. Saquon as a receiver matters in this game. We're going to play that in DFS. You should feel good about it in seasonal. I got the Buccaneers winning this one at home. Reload. Cleveland Browns at the Lions, Detroit Lions. Cleveland keeps it tighter than folks think by throttling Detroit's pass. They got a good pass rush, so I think they'll keep that part of the game in check. But the Lions lean on the run and pull away late is what I think. Njoku and Fanning, viable volume together. But Goff's bunch will adjust after the half. They'll make a good adjustment. I got Detroit by a couple scores in this one. Reload. Jaguars at 49ers. Jaguars D is underrated, and they're scoring. Live dog here, man. I like this as an upset. Let's pay attention to this. ETN over everything for Jacksonville. Jacksonville wins turnover margin, I think, and steals this one late. Their defense is the highest scoring defense in the league right now. Yes, Jacksonville. Yes, they're 2-1. We need to pay attention to what's happening. People are fooled by the 49ers. They're 3-0. McCaffrey's always fine, but fading most of the rest of the San Fran pieces against this defense that showed up so far to start the year, I'm going to take the Jaguars and the upset on the road. Reload. Colts at the Rams here. The Rams, I think, will rebound at home. Tough loss on the road against the Eagles in a game they had last week. Defense plus Kyron will control it, I think, as far as keeping them ahead of the Colts. Jonathan Taylor is going to be serviceable this week. Pittman is fine. The rest looks a little thin for Indy as far as I'm concerned. Hookah pops again. LA gets back on track. Reload. Ravens at the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football. Kansas City D, y'all, they ain't scaring nobody. Lamar and Zay Flowers pace the night for me. Looks like a nice stack. I think King Henry's a goal line hope more than the centerpiece. He looks like a shell of a former self out there. Kansas City spreads it. Mahomes, yes, but the wide receiver play is a roulette. They spread that ball around. So we can invest in Mahomes, but I'm not singling out one of those wide receivers. Tough game for the Ravens on the road, but I think they get the last stop, and that's the difference in winning this game down the stretch. I'm going to take Ravens in Kansas City. Reload. Packers at the Cowboys. Excuse me, that's the Sunday night game. Sorry, not the Ravens. Packers at the Cowboys. Green Bay this week is going to bounce back behind defense. They're going to show up. I think Love beats pressure looks this week. He can actually get the ball out. Josh Jacobs, okay because of volume. You like him because of volume this week. But the Packers D is the best play here. Dallas leans on Javonte and tries to play the clock control game, in my opinion, here. That's the easiest path to victory for them, but they will still come up short. I'm going to take Packers on the road here. Michael Parsons' homecoming will be a win for his new team. And reload one more time, make it our final shot. Let's make it a good one. Dolphins at Jets, Monday Night Football. Both messy. Jets are a little bit tougher, though. Fields is going to return, so that keeps Garrett Wilson unlocked. And it boosts Breece Hall, too, actually. That's the core if you want to play Jets. Tua, Tyreek, Achane on the other side still will be productive. But I'm going to say the Jets eke out Aaron Glenn's first W, settling the ship, I should say. But guys, that's what I got for you for Reload this week. Hopefully those game scripts that I'm thinking of will help you guys as you try to determine what you want to invest in and what looks good to you. Moving right along. Before we get to these DFS picks, we want to take a moment and shout out those Downey Razorbacks. Went all the way out to the desert, Palm Springs, to take on the Indians on Saturday. Came away with a nice W, 34-0. The Downey Razorbacks still are pitching a shutout. No teams have put any points on them, and they're putting points on the board. Looking good, rounded into shape. Keep up the good work, little dudes. Okay, guys, let's slide along to our DFS picks here, making it really sweet for you guys to understand where my head is. And so the C, the little letter C, obviously is cash game, so the rest of these will be tournament plays. But as we take a look at what we got this week, I'm going with these four quarterbacks, and I'll mix and match everything that I have with them. I'll get my stacks in, I'll do what I need to. But Jalen Hurts at 6,700, Tampa's going to force the issue, so I like him. Bring that back with Baker Mayfield at 6,500. I'm going to play both of them, right? I'm going to play both of them with the other guys' receivers, try to see if I can get a feel for the points in that game that way. Mahomes is in play, but Daniel Jones is where I'm going for cash games. You can pay down and I think still get some production because the Rams can put up points. They're going to force the Colts to have to put up some points. I know I said in my analysis, it feels like, defense and Kyron control it. But I think that's what the Rams try to do. I don't necessarily know. We won't know until the game if they're going to have success doing it. If they can't do that, then what I said is true. It's Pittman, maybe to a lesser degree Warren, And JT can get in the box for sure. But Dave Jones leads that charge. Indiana Jones is playing for real this year, guys. And so I'll take him as my cash game at 5,600 quarterback this week. Wide receivers, Puka's in play, 7,900. Nico Collins, 74. Those are guys I'll pay up for. As I mentioned, Zay Flowers, I like him this week, as you see there. A.J. Brown, let's go back to the well. Signified him last week. Really got us close to cash. Again, it was really CeeDee Lamb that kept us out. But he's so discounted because people are thinking, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. Let's go back to the well. $6,400, that's a pretty nice price for the wide receiver one of Hurts in a game where I expect points. Godwin this week at 6K. Let's take that shot. DJ Moore, cash game viable at 5,600. He gets too many looks, too many targets for me to not be interested in that. Devonta Smith at 5,400 to play a part of that game narrative makes sense to me. Michael Pittman Jr., 5,100, cash game, lock it in. I'm going to stack him up with Danny Jones. And then from the Tennessee Titans, Ayo Mayor, $3,900 salary saver. He gets all the targets. What's not to like about that? If he can be successful, all the more better. But I'm really setting myself up for a low-price guy there with a lot of production or productivity, I should say. I don't know if it'll be production, but that's why it's a tournament play and not a cash game play. Tight end, Tyler Warren, we could take a shot there. Bit too expensive, honestly, at 4,600, but I think that's a differentiator for tournaments, and so we'll play that. Hunter Henry at 4K, but beware, it's going to be very popular. Everybody thinks that's the new thing now. Njoku at 3,900, I think is great because people will flock to Fanning at 3,700, so I'll stick with my guy and make it a cash game play. Chigakonkwo at 3,500, I like that check down option for Cam Ward. New quarterback, he's going to be on the run. I think Houston's going to play him tough. He'll need that check down option, so I like Okonkwo. And then Gatson, Aranda Gatson for the Chargers, 2,600. He's been healthy. You're inserting him. You're talking about using him more. Who knows? That could just be talk. But for $2,600, I want to get invested. Saw them look at him a little last week. Let's see if they can make that happen. I believe they want to work the two tight end set. That's not fiction. We talked about Greg Roman bringing his offense from Baltimore over to the Chargers. We've discussed Herbert with this running upside. He's not a rushing quarterback, but he's at least getting some rushing yards every game because they're running that Baltimore playbook. The run game should be better now that we have Hampton stepping in for Najee. And the centerpiece to that for me, like I said, is going to be where's I going with that? Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, you guys got my pick. So moving on to running back, I'm going to pay up this week, excuse me, for Bilal Robinson because that makes sense. We talked about the game script and how he should be involved, $8,200. But Barkley's a real sweet spot at $7,600. May even try to, may even think about forcing him into a cash game if I can. Jonathan Taylor at $7,500. These are guys I don't think people will pay up for, all three of those guys. Cook, I love at $7,100. Has to be my cash game play. As Buffalo should be running clock, should be running ball, right? They won't have to do a bunch of passing to stay ahead. I think the defense and the running back can win that game. Hampton, that's who I was talking about. Omari and Hampton. $5,900. Cash game play. That's who I was talking about this week. I'm locking that in. I'm using that guy. He is the guy. Najee broke the ACL. They got nowhere else to go. At $5,700, I like David Montgomery. Notice I'm not playing Gibbs this week. Too expensive. But Montgomery, for mirrored production, will pay for that. Tony Pollard, $5,600, also makes a ton of sense to me this week. Don't know if he'll be productive. That's why it's a tournament play. But it's a good price. Judkins from Cleveland. Love it. Love the play. He's a hard runner. If you haven't seen it, this guy gets it. He can bop between the tackles. I like him as a tournament play at $5,500 this week. And then Swift and Stevenson, I'll round it out by getting some usages of those guys as well. They're just in good spots. Each of them can get a touchdown this week. I want to make sure I'm getting exposure to that. And then for defenses, gave you some nice options there. Buffalo Bills at $3,700, top of the pile if you want to pay up. Texans at $3,400 against Tennessee. Also the Chargers, like we just said, $3,300. They're in a pretty good spot this week. Falcons, I like them against Washington, $2,700. I like it. I like this Falcon defense versus Mariota. The Falcons know the limitations of Mariota. Some of them played with them still. Even though it's a different coaching staff, they're familiar with this guy. Jaguars need $2,500. Cash game play for me. Nobody sees it coming. I think they're going to play San Francisco significantly tougher than people think will win that game. So it's $2,500. I'm saving salary for somewhere else to pay up by playing Jacksonville. Tight at $2,300. Interesting play. We see how bad Houston can be. They couldn't get past Jacksonville. I think Tennessee basically can take advantage of the Houston bad O-line and keep the game close for a lot longer than people think. And so if you want to bottom out as a tournament play, $2,300 does not sound like a bad move to get into the game. Those are my picks this week, guys. Hopefully that helps you sort of fill out where you want to go and what you think you need to do this week. And hopefully you have good luck with your picks. Let's finish up with a little bit of housekeeping. Just a couple of notes to make sure we get our mind right as we get ready for this week, right? So first tip I got for you is start looking at your matchups a couple of weeks out. If you are picking up waiver wire players for this week, you're looking at the matchups week by week, you're doing it wrong. We got to get ahead of our opponents. That's what they're doing. So let's start thinking about it 2 weeks out. So our waiver wire picks can be for games and weeks coming up, not for this week. People will even try to block you and see what you're doing, right? And so we want to be savvy and get ahead of that by playing into the future. If you wait to the week that you're playing that guy, too great of a chance of somebody picking up a guy to block you or the guy you need not being there. Let's look ahead. It's week 4 right now. On Sunday, when you sit there watching the game, week 5 is already too late. I want you to start looking at week 6 and week 7. Look at those matchups and think about if you actually need to pick up somebody so that we can do it early, right? That's the way that we stay ahead of everybody in terms of waiver wire when it comes to seasonal. Last tip I got for you in housekeeping here, stacking in DFS. We talked about game size. We talked about multi-entry versus single entry. We talked about tournament versus cash games, the percentage of which ones to play and all that. So the next piece we need to talk about is stacking. Your chances of winning, especially a tournament, are significantly increased when you stack players that do well from the same team, right? It's kind of like last week if you had Hurts and Brown. That was a great stack from Philly. It's proven that your chances of winning increase with the stack, right? So it becomes about picking the right stack. And so stacking for DFS, if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong because you're basically saying, if you're not stacking, you're picking individual players that you think is going to hit. That's a lot of faith and truly something that is up in the air. Nobody knows for sure how the games are going to go. What is easier to do is pick on the team and say, I expect the Colts to score points this week. So let me stack Indiana Jones with Pittman, maybe with the tight end, right? Or you can stack the running back. But a more traditional stack, because I like to do quarterback, wide receiver. I like to do quarterback, wide receiver, opponent's wide receiver, right? You can do that too. Salary saver, you can do opponent's second receiver. So like if CeeDee Lamb was playing, it would be George Pickett's. That worked for you because Lamb went down last week, right? And so just some things to think about. Running back correlates to defense. If you're running the ball, you're probably ahead. Defense is probably playing well. Those are strong correlations. Quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end, those are strong correlations. Correlating your quarterback and your wide receiver with the opponent's wide receiver, those are strong correlations. I hope this is making sense to you guys because you need to be, for tournaments, thinking in terms of who can I stack and who can I bring it back with, right? So that's my tip for housekeeping for this week. Guys, the house is clean. The affairs are in order. We're ready for week 4. Good luck to you guys. Let's go out there and win, do what we do, and we will huddle up right back here next week, review what happened, talk about how we did, and continue to learn, scout, win, and repeat.